All right, so when you think of Merlin, what's the first image that pops into your head? Probably an old guy. Pointy hat, long white beard, right? The powerful advisor to the king. Let's just forget that image for a minute. Before Merlin was the power behind the throne, he was something far older and way, way wilder. And his first education? It had absolutely nothing to do with books or kings. It was an education written into the very landscape of ancient Britain. And this quote from Lord Byron, wow, it just nails it. Between two worlds, life hovers like a star. That's the perfect description of the world Merlin was born into. It was a liminal space, a threshold, a place caught between what we think we know and something else entirely. And that, right there, is the core of what we're digging into. The idea that Merlin's true power didn't come from chanting incantations or waving a wand. No, it came from an education steeped in a world that was alive. I mean, truly alive, in a way that's kind of hard for us to even wrap our heads around today. To really get the student, you have to understand the classroom first. And Merlin's classroom wasn't some stuffy room. It was the whole of pre-Christian Britain. It was a place that felt enchanted, sure, but not because of floating spells. It was enchanted because of a completely different way of seeing reality. In this world, consciousness wasn't just a human thing. The land itself was a living, breathing entity. A river wasn't just a body of water, it was a vein. A deep pool could be a mouth. And walking into a forest wasn't just taking a stroll, it was crossing a real, tangible threshold into another state of being. The whole world was speaking. You just had to know the language. And this living world was, of course, inhabited. But our modern idea of who lived there, fairies, is such a pale, watered-down version of the truth. So let's peel back the layers of glitter and see what they really were. The modern fairy is basically a cute little garden decoration. But the IOC, the beings from Merlin's time, they were something else. They weren't small, they were vast. They weren't harmless, they were terrifyingly powerful. And here's the key. They didn't live next to us. It was more like they existed on a completely different frequency of reality that would sometimes and often dangerously overlap with our own. And they weren't good or evil. That's a human concept. Think about it. A hurricane isn't evil. A tidal wave isn't malicious. They just are. And that's what the IOC were like. They were forces of nature. Their power wasn't something they used. It was what they were. And to encounter them was to be changed forever. So, into this world, a living landscape humming with these vast and indifferent elemental powers, a boy is born. And he is uniquely, perfectly suited to navigate it. A boy who could see both sides of the veil. This is the great paradox at the heart of Merlin. It's what makes him him. From his human mother, he gets the whole package: grief, love, the relentless forward march of time. But from his spirit father, he got something completely different. He inherited the ability to perceive that other frequency of reality. It was called the glimmer. And this wasn't just about seeing the future. It was much deeper. It was the ability to see straight through the glamour. Think of it like a perceptual filter or static that the Fae use to hide in plain sight. You know that uncanny feeling you get at dusk when the world seems a bit off? That's the veil thinning. Well, for Merlin, there was no veil. He saw it all the time. And can you imagine what a lonely and powerful position that is? He was the ultimate translator, the only one who could really speak the language of both humans and the Fae. That made him indispensable. But because he was a hybrid, a man of two worlds, neither side could ever fully claim him. And so neither side ever fully trusted him. He spent his whole life walking that boundary. So, long before he was Merlin the advisor, he was Merlin Wilt, which means Merlin the Wild. And it was out there, in the absolute wilderness, that his true education began. This wasn't him taking a break, this was his university. His glimmer allowed him to tune in to all these frequencies of non-human intelligence. He wasn't learning from books, he was learning medicine by watching which plants sick animals went to eat. He read the coming weather not from the clouds, but from the collective anxiety of birds. He was learning to translate the deep, complex language of the land itself. Now, this period of his life is often just brushed off as him going mad, but there's this Celtic idea of the Gild, which completely reframes it. A Gild isn't mad, they're overwhelmed. They're seeing too much reality. Their wildness is just a symptom of too much perception, of being unable to filter out the vast, inhuman consciousness of the world. That was Merlin Wild. But all of that was just his bachelor's degree. His most formidable teacher, the one who truly forged his understanding of real power, she came to him in the dead of winter. It's time we met the Kaliak. She wasn't a goddess in some tidy mythological sense. She was more like a fundamental principle of reality that had decided to wear a face. The divine hag, the old woman, the living embodiment of winter itself. And Merlin knew, with a certainty that came from deeper than thought, that he was in the presence of something ancient before the first humans ever walked the earth. And her lesson was the one fundamental law of all Fae workings, the law of sacrifice. And its original meaning was to make sacred. The law is starkly simple. Nothing changes without a cost. The world is a closed system. You don't create power from nothing, you only move it from one place to another. The logic here is about resonance, not control. You don't command the sky to rain. Instead, you have to offer the sky a grief so profound that it resonates with the sky's own potential to weep. To heal a wound, you don't just zap the infection away. No, you have to transfer it, relocate the decay into something like a stone, which has the geological patience to hold it. See, this magic wasn't about breaking the laws of physics. It was about understanding them at a level we've long since forgotten. Armed with this deep, frankly terrifying knowledge, Merlin enters the final phase of his education. He had learned how to listen to the world. Now he had to learn how to speak for the future. The stories say he went to live in a tall pine tree. This wasn't just a random choice. It was a deliberate, symbolic act. Think about it. To live in a tree is to occupy that boundary world. You're not on the solid human earth, but you're not in the open sky either. He was physically putting himself in the same threshold space he occupied psychically. And the visions that came to him there, they weren't clear movies of what was to come. Not even close. It was more like chaotic, contradictory fragments. Images without context. He was feeling the pressure of the future, like the current of a river you haven't stepped into yet. So his real work as a prophet wasn't just seeing the future. It was the incredibly difficult task of shaping all that overwhelming chaotic input into human language, into verse. And that's what it was all for. That was the ultimate goal. His time listening to the AOC, his brutal lessons with the Kaliak, his ordeal in the pine tree, it was all the training required for his one true lifelong job, to be the bridge. To stand on the boundary of the seen and the unseen, and to translate with authority in both directions. Which leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Merlin's power came from a deep, patient, and often scary kind of listening. He learned the grammar of a world that was alive and communicating. It really makes you wonder, in our much, much louder world, what essential wisdom is lost when we stop listening?